Guys, hopefully you've watched the video on area of rectangle, the pages of the pack above. We're going to move on to triangles now. A little bit harder because even with the grid shown behind, it's not obvious what the area of this triangle is. We could try and count the squares, but some of the squares are only partial squares. And in primary school, you probably counted the whole ones and then did an estimation on what the other ones would add up to in terms of squares. But there is a method that we're going to use to find the area of the triangle, and it relies on us knowing how to find the area of a rectangle. So that's why it's so important that you've seen the video above. So let's start with question 1a. We've got a right angle triangle here, and it has a base of 3 centimeters. We're going to just assume these are centimeter squares, and it has a height of 2 centimeters. Now, the method we use for this is to work out the area of the rectangle that surrounds the shape, and then can you think about how much of that rectangle is taken up by the triangle? Well, the triangle has this line here which cuts the rectangle in half. Excuse me. So if we can work out the area of the rectangle and half it, we will have the area of the triangle. So the area of the rectangle is just the base times the height, which is 6. Right, the base is 3. It doesn't really matter which way around you do that, but I'll do it the same way I'm explaining it. And then 6 divided by 2 gives us an area of 3. And remember, area is measured in square units, so square centimeters in this case. And let's see whether that applies to this one as well, whether we can do the same thing. So I'm going to draw my rectangle around it. Now this triangle is slightly different. It's hard to say what fraction of the rectangle it takes up just by looking at it like that. But if we were to split it again, so if I drew a line down here, you can see that this triangle here takes up half of this 1 by 2 rectangle, and this triangle over on to the right of that dotted line takes up half of this 3 by 2 rectangle. So overall, the whole triangle still takes up just half of the overall rectangle. So the same rule can be applied. We can work out the area of the rectangle and half it. So the base is 4, the height is 2, so we can do 4 times 2 to find the area of the rectangle. We're then going to halve it, and the area of the triangle is therefore 4 square centimeters. And in fact, in general, this rule can be applied to any triangle. So the formula for the area of any triangle, I'm going to write it up here, and I recommend you do the same, is to do the base times the height, divide it by 2. You may see it written like this as well in a revision guide, half times the base times the height, or maybe even either of these but without the times signs. This is algebra at the end of the day. Okay, question B wants us to draw a right angle triangle with an area of 8 square centimeters. So I'm going to do it very similar to this one over here to keep it simple. Might as well have our right angle in the bottom left. So if it needs an area of 8 square centimeters, that means the rectangle that surrounds it would have an area of 16. So any way you can make an area of 16. So I would do probably a 4 by 4 rectangle. So therefore I'm going to draw a triangle with a base of 4 and a height of 4. Okay, so if you think about the rectangle around that, that would have an area of 16, so the triangle has an area of half. You could also do an 8 by 2, so 8 as the base, 2 as the height, but this will do for me. Okay, and there's my right angle there. D says, draw a scalene triangle with an area of 15 square centimeters. So scalene means not a right angle triangle, all different lengths. So let's go for the area of the triangle has to be, sorry, the area of the rectangle around the triangle has to be 30. So let's go with 6 wide by 5 high. That should be fine. Oops. And I'm just going to make sure I don't draw it to this point, because that would give me a nice isosceles triangle. There we go, that'll be fine. So that's a 6 base, 5 is the height, 6 times 5 would be 30, but then we halve that and we get 15. Okay, we're just going to apply this formula to all of these questions down here now. So I'll have a go at one, pause it, you pause the video, have a go at the rest, unpause it and mark your work. Okay, so base on this one is 6, the height is 8, so we can do 6 times 8 and then divide by 2. 6 times 8 is 48, divided by 2 gives an area of 24 square centimetres. And it doesn't matter actually which one we call the base and which one we call the height, as long as they're at a right angle to each other. Okay, just turn the page and this would become your base, wouldn't it? Okay, and this would become your height. So we didn't actually use 10 in this question, and that's really important to note that, because sometimes they'll give you that length. And lots of people who don't really understand the formula for the area of a triangle will try and use it in some way, but actually what we've got to do is just ignore it. Okay, so you pause the video, have a go at the others. Okay, there's the answers to question 2. On to question 3. Same thing, I'll go through the first one, you pause the video, when you're ready to see the answers just press play. So the base on this first triangle is 4. These are not right angle triangles like the ones above. It doesn't matter. The formula applies to all sorts of triangles, remember. The height is 6, and we're talking about the perpendicular height there. 4 times 6 is 24. Divided that by 2 will give us 12 square centimetres. Okay, I'm going to do the rest. You pause the video and reveal when you want to see the answers. Okay, there's the answers to question 3. I'm going to do the next page on the same video as well, because it's the same skill. Okay, these triangles again are scalene triangles. Some of these might have been isosceles, but the difference with these ones is that their height does not fall, in other words, the highest point of the triangle does not fall above the base. So we can still use the same formula though. It's a little bit odd to think about the rectangle around these shapes, but it would look something like this. So believe it or not, the triangle would take up half of this rectangle if we could sort of chop it and slice it and reposition it. Okay, so we still use 9 as the base, we still use 4 as the height, nothing in the formula changes. So for this one, base is 9, going to times by the height, divide by 2, 9 times 4 is 36, divide that by 2, you get 18 square centimetres. Okay, pause the video, have a go at the other two, and unpause when you want to see the answers. Okay, there's the answers. Moving on to question 5. Right, and on this question we're told the area of the triangle, and we are not told one of the lengths, the height in fact. Okay, so what I like to do with these questions is just do what I'd ordinarily do. I would do the base times the height, but I don't know the height, so I'm just going to call it x. Divide by 2, and that gives me the area. Now this time, it's usually the area I want to find, but this time I know the area, so I'm going to write it. I know that gives me 20. And now I've got a little equation which I'm going to solve. The reason I do it this way all the time is sort of it's good practice. It reminds me what the formula is each time I do this, and B, it gives me practice in solving equations, so I'm practicing algebra as well. So what I would do to solve this is first get rid of that denominator in the fraction by times and by 2, both sides, and that would just give me the numerator, so the 5 times x bit, or 5x. And if I multiply 20 by 2, that would give me 40. And then how do I get rid of the 5, which is timesing by the x? Well, the opposite of timesing is dividing. So when we divide by 5, just left with x, and 40 divided by 5 is 8. So x, or the height, is 8 centimetres. Okay, on question 6, very similar. This time it's the base we're not given. So I would normally do the base times the height, divide by 2, and I know the answer is going to be 30. So what I'm going to do to undo that equation is times by 2. That will just give me y times 6, or 6y. If I multiply 30 by 2, I get 60. And then I want to get rid of the times by 6 by dividing by 6. So y is equal to 10 and 10 centimeters. Okay, very similar question, just a different type of triangle. So the base, again, times the height, z, divided by 2 gives me 12. I like to separate what I'm doing to the equation from the equation itself using some lines. Okay, we're going to times by 2. That'll just give me 6 times z. And when I multiply the right hand side by 2, that's going to give me 24. And this is the step that most people forget to do. They forget to multiply the right hand side. And then I'm going to divide by 6 to get rid of that times by 6. And 24 divided by 6 is 4. So it has a height of 4. It doesn't look like it in that question, but these diagrams are not drawn to scale, specifically so that you can't just measure them. Okay, and again, very similar question. Base, which is a, times 8 divided by 2 gives me 56. I'm going to times by 2 first. Now double 56, I'm going to get 112. Divide by 8. And that is going to give me 14. Whoops. Okay, and the last question on the page, we've got a square garden with a triangular pond. Find the area of the garden that is grass. So what we want to do is find the area of the garden in its entirety and then take away the area of this triangle, which is the pond. So the area of the entire garden is 6 times 6, because this is a square, so its height is 6 meters as well. So 6 times 6 is 36 square meters. The area of the triangle is the base, 4 times the height, 3 divided by 2. Don't forget to divide by 2, that's the main thing people forget. 12 divided by 2 is 6, and then we're going to do 36 minus 6 to be left with the area of the grass, which is 30 square meters. Okay, thanks for watching, guys. Please subscribe.